Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Fischer with Options for Senior Living and the Options University. Welcome to the podcast. Don't let Haboob hit you in the face. For those of you that are listening to us the first time, the Haboob is my metaphor for what happens in life when as our loved ones are aging, and maybe there's some things going on, and maybe some things that you're not aware of that are going on. Too many families in the years I've been serving families are caught off guard by something dramatic and wild. As we were hit by a dramatic and wild storm this summer, the pictures behind me represent some of that impact that Phoenix felt. That's Arizona State University over my shoulder here. We're getting swallowed up. There's a football stadium inside that cloud and a university. From my own personal experience with my mother's journey and thousands of families I've talked to over the years, they've often felt like it's suffocating and it's overwhelming the way Haboob can sometimes overwhelm people's lives. And so I've made a career out of educating people and helping them understand and interpret those changes in life so that they're better prepared for when stuff happens. Because for the most cases, it's going to happen. My guests are professionals and individuals around the city, that around the greater Phoenix area, that have a direct link and a direct view into this position and this place in life. And today I've got Nikki Smith with me. She's a friend, has been for a number of years. Nikki's the director of operations for IntraCare. That IntraCare business manages about 17 medical practices, primary care practices over the states of Arizona and Texas. You got a huge job, and I just want to say welcome and thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you so much for having me and thinking of me to join you.
I think you're going to have some really unique and up close and personal perspectives and personal experiences from the patients, the families that you've seen while sitting as a office manager of one practice, and now you have a greater purview over a larger business. Where did your
Yeah,
start come from? How'd you get into all that?
well, I am a medical assistant by trade and started off in a primary care practice and just kind of
Mm,
worked my way up after years and years of hard work, dedication, and being in it for the right reasons. I always
yeah.
tell people beneath me that it's our privilege to take care of these people. And I think with
Mm.
that mentality, it helps set you apart from others because you really want to do well and do well for others.
When you have I'm so glad you started there. When you have the mindset that you get to do what you do, like it's a privilege. We get to. Stacy and I, our business has evolved over the years, and we have our two daughters working for us now. I tell them they get to, right? You're walking on holy ground in some people's worlds. It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of sadness as our loved ones are aging out or experiencing like the impact of dementia or Parkinson's disease or, other chronic conditions that come up.
Yeah, so many things that happen to our seniors, and working in primary care, mostly dealing with geriatric patients. One thing that I
Mm.
I said recently was, you know, from 20 years ago, I'm like, these people are getting older. Like, how did
Mm.
that not click for so long? But you see the drastic change,
I, I,
and I'm like, what is happening? They're aging.
I know. I was doing a sidebar. I was doing a workshop for a financial advisor's clients. I've known the financial advisor for 30 plus years. I went to church with her and her family. A lot of her clients are people I went to church with. My kids are now in their middle 30s. So I was saying hello to some of their clients, and I'm like, Charlie, I'm older now than when I met you. So I'm older now than when
Yeah,
I
and
met
how
him.
come you're aging, but I'm staying the same? Like, I haven't noticed a change in
Gosh,
myself.
yeah. Except I'm going to be 63 this year. So this is for real. Like you cannot escape the reality. And I hope that through our outreach and through these conversations, this conversation particularly, we come to a place like the reality of aging is
It's knocking
avo-
on all of our doorsteps.
and avoiding it or putting your head in the box or head in the sand or being an ostrich. That's not helpful. That's setting you up for haboob, right? So many of folks that are in my parents' generation that were born in the mid late 30s up through the mid late 40s, they are the survivors of the Depression and the
Yes.
Great War. Those families endured stuff that we think we've got it hard. We don't know. And so their
No.
commitment to their their privacy, their pride, their resilience is unmistakable. It often gets them in trouble with their decision making at times because they're so proud and they kind of resist help, and they're sort of defiant or protective of it, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that they're very independent and they want to maintain their independence for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You work at a primary care clinic and you manage those. And so, what is the impact of aging or your patient's aging journey? What's that? How do you measure that, or what's the effect of that on your practice? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think preventative care is something that we've put in place as a priority. And so that allows us to measure that a little more closely and help identify these things with patients before they might be able to identify them themselves,
Mm,
before, the haboob is actually hitting them. We strongly recommend and emphasize the fact that patients should do preventative care. Their annual wellness visits every year and their 6 month follow up every 6 months,
mhm.
if they have any chronic conditions, because, like, just like you said, specifically with that generation, they're so independent and they'll avoid the doctor's office at all costs if they can. They have much better things to do. But when you find out things sooner than later, the odds of keeping them independent, keeping them healthy, keeping them able to do what they want to do are higher.
Do they willingly share private details if they're having struggles at home on a whole?
Not always,
Mm,
not always, but I do think that those things present themselves when you develop a rapport. And I can't tell you the amount of stories and very personal details that I even heard as a medical assistant, let alone with the providers here in the room with patients. But there
mhm.
are those that are very private. So that's where, seeing them frequently and trying to pull things out of them can be beneficial.
Sometimes I think the perception of our healthcare system, it's almost conveyor belt-ish. People are in and you get 6 minutes with the doctor, you get 6 minutes, it's just boom, boom, boom. But even in that current environment, it feels like there's certain providers that just have a heart for connection, eliciting trust, helping draw that out of people. I imagine also that some spouses are super protective of their spouse, and so they may
Yeah.
be compensating or hiding
They'll
from their
cover for them.
provider.
They have no shame in covering for them. And, oh, yeah, 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 they're fine because, we keep coming back to it, but they want to maintain their independence as long as they possibly can. That generation sees the inability to be independent as something that they've done wrong or some sort of punishment. So, and it's not that way, but
But that's the perception that there's a
yeah,
weakness in them or something or some flaw in them. I often see their identity wrapped up in that very thing that when you
absolutely.
when you get down to the core thing, like who are you? And Julie says, well, I'm Eddie's girl. Like that's her identity. She's going to go to the mat for Eddie when Eddie's having lapses in his memory or wandering episodes, or it's going to take a lot for her to let somebody into that truth or the reality of what's going on in their home.
Yeah, and we've
Maybe not,
seen that time after time.
and not, and of course their kids too. How do you get the kids involved, or when do you get kids involved? Maybe is a better. Can you and will you and how do you? Is a question.
Well, I mean, that is a tricky thing for primary care because you want to maintain, professionalism there, but
Hmm.
when you have providers that do really go above and beyond and really do care, like some that that I can name, Dr. Page, Dr. McDonald at Sun Lakes, they will be the first person to pick up the phone and contact a patient's loved one, child, and say,
Yeah.
all right, it's time for you to take some intervention, take some
Yeah.
steps.
And as an adult child, I appreciate that. The rub is privacy, the rub is authority. People that are aging still retain their own authority just because they've signed some kind of a power of attorney thing or whatever doesn't give their kids authority over them as long as they have the capacity to make their own decisions. You guys deal with this every day. So you
Well,
have
and that's
adults.
what's very, very complicated.
Yeah. So impairment does not equal incapacity. So there's your nugget, here's your takeaway from today. Impairment does not equal, but impairment, oh man, makes decision making and judgment and follow up, I bet, a hard challenge for you guys to navigate with your patients.
Yeah, and they're vulnerable. They're more vulnerable, and that's very challenging because you'll run into seeing a senior have someone reach out to them and ask them, to send gift cards. Otherwise, their electricity is going to get shut off, and they do it, and it's absolutely devastating. But they're otherwise normal and fine, but they're just more vulnerable.
I've got personal family situations where our family member has that impairment aspect to their situation. They're not incapacitated legally, and so their powers are not overlooked, but certainly that decision making and insight is I've said for years that that goes long before the memory goes, and that's the hardest season for most families. Once your loved one is considered incapacitated, let's say dementia or Parkinson's really does its thing, and you're in the later stages of those diseases. Well, now you're just managing as an adult child. You're managing,
Right.
um, but when you've got to walk this the gray zone for a while, that can be very hard. And with you guys is right on the front lines with those the seniors themselves. Which you said you do preventative care. Any
Mhm.
outreach programs that you've designed besides come into the office more frequently? Any other designed outreach to those guys or invitations in for health and wellness fairs or any sort of high touch things that you might do already or ideas that you'd like to do?
We do a lot of that. I don't know if you've ever heard of like a RAF score, or that's kind of a number that we would associate with a patient, and the higher the number, the technically or on paper sicker that they are. So then they're considered more of a high risk patient.
Mhm.
And those type of patients, we just like to stay on top of them and see them more frequently. But yeah, there's phone calls, there's text messages that are being sent out like, hey, don't forget about us. We just want to check on you. We want to make sure you're immunized. We want to make sure,
Mm,
you know, with cold and flu season coming up, you're getting your flu shot and you're not vulnerable to those types of things, because some people are on top
mhm.
of it, but others, they don't think about those little things. We do mailers with little campaigns and things like that to
Mhm.
just stay on top of our seniors, and we
Yeah.
consider it just taking care of them.
The families that we've had the privilege to help you with when you've called us in on certain situations, they love your providers. I mean, there's that
Yes.
relationship that's clearly in place. Are the seniors today open to how are they best open to information? Are they accepting text messages and emails and webinars and Zooms and things like that? Or are they still like the in-person kind of approach to life? What's your thinking on
Well, I
that?
think we're kind of on that cusp for generation. The older generations, the 80-year-olds, are not interested in it whatsoever. But you get these, 60, latter 60, 70 year
Mhm,
olds, and they're
mhm.
like, yeah, I want access to my portal, access to my records. I want to be able to correspond with you via text. Or can you just text me that information so I don't have to call in? And I think that that's an interesting dynamic as well, because we have like half of the population that wants nothing to do with it. They don't want
Yep,
another app on their phone, and then you have
yep.
the other half that's like, don't even call me. The over communication is just not something they're interested in.
Yeah, I can think of my mom and my in-laws as being less interested in more contact. My mom's a pretty high user of services, but on her terms, like not, it's always been kind of on her
Exactly.
terms.
We offer a program called the RPM program, and that's where we basically, anybody that has hypertension or those type
Uh-huh.
of issues, we have a blood pressure machine that we can monitor their vitals remotely. And if we get any type of alerts or anything like that, it'll notify us, and we can address it. I mean, the long term goal or the main
Mhm.
goal is to keep patients out of the hospital, to be able to identify those
Yeah.
things when they're not in the office. But you have some patients that are like, nobody's calling me and checking up on me when my blood pressure's, 148. And then you have others that are like, you're overcalling me. So it's walking that fine line and that dynamic. Some people want all the attention, and others want you to just leave them
Yeah.
alone unless it's an
Yeah.
emergency.
Yeah. How do your community partners play into how you manage some of that? And maybe how then the follow-up was then do you envision how you could involve or have greater support as a primary care
Well,
clinic or practice?
yeah, the community partners do play a big role. Organizations like yours, organizations like, insurance brokers and things like that,
Mhm.
open enrollments, it is here. And our
Yeah,
seniors often don't know where to turn to, and we can't necessarily advise them on that. It's kind of a conflict of interest. But
right.
we have community partners that were like, hey, talk to this trusted person that we have, and they can help you make the decision that's best for you. And it feels really good to have partners like you and those types of people that we've developed a rapport with and a
Yeah.
trust with, and that we know that our seniors are going to be in good hands when we send them over.
And we totally treasure those relationships. So, Nick, as we kind of get ready for, bringing this in for landing, and I want to talk about falls and the impact on falling that's having across the city and kind of where we can help support those seniors as they're aging from the practice perspective. It takes a certain heart to be in this end of the world working with the seniors. You've said to
Yes.
me before, and you've got a philosophy. What's your personal feelings about working with the elderly population?
Well, like I said earlier, it's my privilege to take care of them. And I absolutely adore seniors. So
Mm.
it's my love language to talk about them, help them.
I love that. I am 23 years into our business here. My wife's two daughters joined us in the last year, Nikki, as you know. It's awesome to see these 20 somethings picking up the torch and wanting to run with it and want to serve families and serve seniors. And yes, they're young, but they're hungry and they're tenderhearted and they want to do well by people. And so they're learning what they need to learn. They're getting their experience. It's really cool to see this next generation, from me that now wants to be involved. The
Yeah, I
demographics.
agree. I'm seeing some real drive out there with these younger people. And that's one thing I'm trickling down to all of my staff and all of our clinics is the why behind
Mm,
what we do, why we do what we do, and just keeping that front and center so that patients realize or people realize that when they're taking care of these patients and they're
mm.
coming in, they're not always having the best day, and we don't need to reciprocate any of that. Like I said, and I'll say it again, it's our privilege to take care of these people.
Yeah, I love that. Here, I'm going to give you a couple statistics, and then we'll talk falls for 1 minute and the impact, and then share with me your kind of your final thoughts. Here's what's real in Maricopa County, where we live. 2020 census, there's 160,000 80-year-olds already in Maricopa County.
Wow.
160,000. There is 1 million already over the age of 65,
In Maricopa
right?
County.
In Maricopa
Wow.
County already. We are totally top heavy. A dear friend of mine that runs a foundation here in town that engages with the city governments, the fire departments and such, the response of people falling and being on the floor is huge. The impact of the cities is massive. And so the fire departments are responding. So across the valley, Phoenix, Chandler, the Sun Cities, Gilbert, Scottsdale, blah, 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 all of them collectively will be out. The trucks will roll close to 100,000 times this year to just pick people up, lift
Wow.
them up, get them up off the ground at $1,500 to $2,500 a roll. So the financial
Just
impact is
literally
real.
pick them up
Yeah,
that they don't have to take them to the hospital.
yeah, yeah. Some transport happens. Some of that happens already with inside senior living. That's a whole nother issue. But obviously,
Right.
by and large, it's people living at home trying to stay safely at home. And so we have a
Right.
mission here at Options about staying safely at home. We're doing some local workshops. We're doing one in Chandler with the vice mayor. We're doing one in Scottsdale with the fire department in Scottsdale. But from your perspective, your patients, how do we keep getting the message to helping them stay safely at home proactively so that they don't feel like we're trying to get them out or do something against their will?
Yeah, the primary care practices are a good place to start. Having them share your information and your outreach and community events with their patients, because that's one place that they're coming through the door.
Yeah. If we had an event of some kind or some communication about staying safely at home or some version of that, does that resonate, do you think, with you, your providers, and your patients?
Absolutely, because
Would it?
being able to maintain their independence at home is a top priority to them. So we want to
Okay.
help that happen.
Okay. All right. Well, you've given me a lot to think about. I hope this has been good for you to share. Um, I,
Absolutely.
this is going to be really rich for the people that hear this, and Nikki, people such as you that oversee and manage medical practices, rehab therapy clinic practices, things like that. That um, I think you've triggered some things that maybe if they're not paying attention to in their practice, they would turn on to, or maybe they've got some additional ideas. And with that, I would love to talk to you. You can find us on all the usual podcasting platforms, Spotify and such. You can find us on our YouTube channel, Options for Senior Living. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, probably one more there too. I don't know, not TikTok, but one of them, YouTube, of course.
Just want to say thank you for having me and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you a ton. All right. Well, everybody, it's been awesome to share Nikki with you guys today. I'll be back with another guest that is right in the throes of it with their client population, and hope to provide more insights and places that we can connect. So thanks again, Nikki. Take care. Have a great afternoon.